guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha and I just accepted a long-term subbing position in 5th grade and then I'll be moving over to 7th grade in March. So I'm a recent grad and I just went through the interview process for these long-term subbing positions, and I thought it would be really helpful since I've had a lot of questions on my Instagram on what teaching interviews are like, what to expect, some answers, some questions. So I wanted to come on and make a video. Hopefully it will help you guys. And I'm no expert. I only went through a few so far and I probably will be going through more in the next few months with you to land a job in the fall. So I want to give some sample questions and then I will do to the best of my ability to answer them and how I answer them in the interviews that I had. So let's get into it. So before I get into anything, my biggest piece of advice for you is just to show up and be confident and be yourself, because yes, you should prepare to answer all the questions and everything like that, but what they're really going to be looking for is who you are as a person. Are you going to be a good coworker? Are you going to be a good teammate? Things like that. So just make sure you're yourself, you're confident. I know it's super nerve-wracking. Interviews are always so nerve-wracking, trust me, I'm right there with you, but try to leave all your nerves at the door and just come in and have a conversation with them so they can see who you really are and what you're going to bring to the table. All right, question time. So first question you'll be asked, guaranteed, is tell me a little bit about yourself. Now this question I always feel kind of difficult. It's not hard, but it's so broad that sometimes you don't know where to start. Some good advice that I have received in the past is to just make sure you tie it back to teaching. So don't go off and talk about your dog that you got when you're 8 years old and stuff like that. So just make sure you're tying it around teaching, why you went into teaching, your experience in education and everything like that. So for example, when I answered that, I kind of just brought it back to high school and how I took the opportunity to be in a 3rd grade classroom where it really struck my interest in going into education, and then just continue on telling your experience throughout college, how you chose your career, things like that. Just keep it into teaching. Question 2 is that they will ask you what your philosophy of teaching is. Now, of course, this is going to be based on your experience and what you think, so I can't really tell you how to answer this, but just go in depth on what your philosophy of teaching is, why it's that way, what happened, or what made you believe that that is a good philosophy to have, things like that. And just make sure you're going into, I'm probably going to say this a lot in this video, but with teaching interviews, make sure you're bringing in concrete examples from your past experiences. So like from student teaching, bring in those to pretty much every answer. It's gonna just build and make you sound like you have a lot of knowledge and you have a lot of background in this and your experience and you're ready and stuff like that. So just make sure you're bringing in concrete examples to your answers. Okay, question number 3 is they will ask you in some way, shape, or form about your behavior management philosophy. Now again, this is going to be based on your experience, but I encourage you to use concrete examples of what you've seen in your student teaching, maybe what your mentor teacher used, what worked, what maybe didn't work, what you plan on incorporating in your future classroom. And a lot of the times the districts have a system that they use, so I would also encourage you to research the district that you're applying to so you can bring in that with your answer. But I just answered with the behavior management that I used in my student teaching, and just lots of positive reinforcement, making sure the kids and students know the clear expectations, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, things like that. Just make sure you go into detail with that question. Okay, question 4 is they'll ask you to tell them about a lesson that you taught that went really well. Now with this one, I would go all the way back to the planning process of that lesson, what you were thinking when you were planning it, how you were going to differentiate instruction, everything like that. So make this a lengthy response and go into detail with why you chose that lesson. What did the students know coming into that lesson? Have they learned it previously? Do they have background knowledge on it? Do they not? How did that affect how you were going to teach it? Everything like that. Are you going to make it whole group for 30 minutes and then go into small group? Are you going to make it whole group? You know, everything like that. So make it super detailed and lengthy. also talk about how you know it went well. What were the students doing? How were they interacting with the lesson? Everything like that. And then your takeaways, of course, with that lesson. So a few pinpoints on that one. Just again, make it super detailed. Pull like your concrete examples from that lesson into it, and you will rock that question. Just make sure you're prepared. And then of course, bouncing off that one, they'll probably ask you about a lesson that maybe didn't go so well. Now, I would talk about how you know it didn't go so well. What did you take away from that? How are you gonna use that to adapt to your future lessons? Just make sure it's okay that lessons don't always go well. They know that too. Not every lesson's gonna go perfect, so don't be intimidated to tell them why it didn't go well. Just what they're going to be looking for is what you took away, how you turned it around and used it in future lessons. Okay, question 5. You will be asked about this, and it is parent communication and how you plan on communicating with families. So this one I tied in a specific app that I used in my student teaching that worked really well with parent communication. It's called Seesaw, so I talked about how I used that, how the parents really enjoyed getting daily pictures of what we were doing in the classroom, newsletters, anything like that. What you are familiar with, what you use, and what you plan on using in your classroom, they're gonna wanna know how you plan on communicating with families, because that is super, super important. Okay, question number 6, you will be asked about how you plan on incorporating technology inside your classroom. Now this one should be fairly easy just because of the last year we've had with COVID and switching to distance learning and everything like that. So make sure that you talk about that in your experiences because they'll want to know that. But just some examples that you plan on and how you can switch over lessons to make it more interactive using technology. So I talked about the different apps that I've used and familiar with, like Pear Deck, Seesaw, Google Classroom, everything like that. So just make sure you talk about what you're familiar with, how you plan on using technology, and just why it's so important to use technology too, to use it as a learning platform. And yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that or answering that right, but you guys know what I mean. So I hope this video helped you talking about those questions that you guaranteed will probably be asked in teaching interviews. My biggest piece of advice is just make sure you're prepared. So what I did that really helped me was just continue watching YouTube videos. You're already doing that, so good job. Reading blogs, make sure you look up your district and find information on like their mission statement, what's important to them, different things like that, because they're most likely going to ask you why you want to work here, what caught your eye. So just make sure that you have some background information on that. But yeah, I would just say you never can over prepare, and especially with teaching interviews, they ask along the same lines of questions, so the internet's going to be your friend and very useful with that. So you got this. I know it's nerve-wracking, but trust me, you will do great. You're already putting in effort to prepare yourself, so good job with that. And I wish you the best of luck. If this video was helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It would mean so much to me. Again, thank you for being here, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.